I'm Claire, I'm Zane's mum. Zane has ADHD and he is dyslexic. Coming to that, I think it was the inaugural, like the very first Dyslexia day that you hosted here was amazing for him. It was a few years ago now and he was quite young, and I think it was the first time ever that he felt surrounded by people who shared some of the same differences that he did when it kind of came to learning and reading and writing and all of that stuff. Because it was quite an inspiring space for him. I think coming into a world where you were going to showcase stuff that would help them, but also that would inspire the kind of more creative, like fun side of things, I think was awesome for him. And also it's Microsoft, so that was exciting. I think initially the thing that inspired him the most was the little bits of animation that he learned to do, because he's incredibly creative, unsurprisingly, as someone who is dyslexic with ADHD. So that really inspired him, that kind of got him going, and it was building that stuff into the small bits of like home learning he had to do using PowerPoint. Beyond that, it was adding in things like immersive reader and the dictation. I think the dictation is something that he's probably used the most, but also something that was really massively beneficial to him was the ability to change the colour of the screen, because Zane was using blue overlays at school, you know, in a kind of paper-based sense, but the ability to do that in the classroom was a phenomenal thing, not just because he was able to do it at home for his own work, but in school, on the screen, he was able to ask the teacher, could they turn it blue for him? So it was an amazing opportunity, because I think as a school they work hard to make it a very dyslexic friendly place, but to actually then integrate some of that stuff and learn about what was embedded in the technology for them to use, because I had like no idea that this stuff existed at all. And I think when you're learning this stuff for the first time, sometimes it's really exciting, but it's a lot to take in and remember. So for the school themselves to start to understand that it was there and be able to use it, that was really powerful. I learned that day, for example, that children can get free use of Microsoft Office. I had no idea about that either, but he didn't have his own school login at that point, but because of then homeschooling, the school had to move to Teams, and they issued every child with their own login, and suddenly he then had access to the software too, so there's kind of lots of benefits in that sense. Oh, that's a big question. So what advice would I give? I know it's really cliched, but I say this all the time and I really mean it, that I so believe this stuff is a superpower, and a lot of the time the problem is the school system and what we expect children to be able to do really within inside a box. But the amazing thing about these differences is that we should be celebrating them, because you can't teach people to think creatively like that. You can't teach people to have that energy level, to really have the ability to think outside the box. And we need to start embracing that more and really believe that it's a power and rather than a problem, and kind of celebrate that difference. So if Zane was here today, he would tell us that he absolutely loved that day and he got a lot from it. It was a few years ago now and he's just about to start secondary school, so he's that bit older and he's having to use technology more in his learning than perhaps he was then, and I know that he's really keen to refresh this stuff, to get the opportunity to almost relearn it, get little bite-sized chances. Concentration's an issue for ADHD, so in small chunks, even if that's online, to remind himself in a kind of child-friendly, age-appropriate way of how to use this stuff, because going into secondary school I think is really different to the way you're learning and working you know, when you're sort of halfway through your primary schooling. And I think that ability to just recall it, refresh it, like relearn it and use it in a different way as he goes older, because I know he's got genuinely very fond memories of it and it's been such a powerful thing for him. I suspect that actually there's even more stuff in there that he could make use of now that perhaps wasn't relevant in that first time that he came here and learnt about it.